Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has searched for answers to the most fundamental questions. Where did we come from? Who created us? What is the real purpose of our existence? Modern science teaches us that we are the result of billions of years of evolution. Random mutations, natural selection, survival of the fittest. But what if this explanation is only a fragment of the truth? What if intelligent forces beyond Earth have intervened in our creation, shaping our genetics, our consciousness, and our destiny? What you're about to hear challenges every official narrative. It contradicts institutional religion, academic science, and the comfort of convenient answers. This is truth beyond Earth, and today you're going to understand why many now believe that humanity was engineered. Comment. When did you first realize this world isn't what it seems? And most of all, share this video with someone who's starting to question everything, because one spark can light 1,000 fires. The planet as a consciousness lab. Now, imagine Earth is not just a rock floating in space, not a random home for carbon-based life, but a deliberately designed simulator, a planetary-scale laboratory for one purpose: to test consciousness under constraint. This is not just poetic metaphor, this is experimental architecture. Earth is a place where souls, fragments of universal intelligence, are inserted into biological vessels, stripped of their memory and forced to survive, adapt, evolve. Everything here is calibrated for maximum friction. You are born and forget who you are. You are given parents who also don't remember. You're surrounded by scarcity, ego, fear, hierarchy. You're taught that you're separate, alone, insignificant. And you're told, survive, choose, obey, believe, or suffer. But beneath the surface chaos, there's a deeper algorithm. What we call governments, religions, currencies, and nations are not just man-made institutions. They are mechanisms in the experiment. Cultural operating systems, variables designed to test specific aspects of the soul. Will you conform or awaken? Will you seek power or truth? Will you choose empathy or control? Will you stay asleep or remember who you are? War, poverty, injustice, they are not glitches in the human system. They are intentional stress points inserted into the simulation to provoke choice, compassion, and growth through suffering. And who built this system? Not random evolution, not a bearded god on a cloud, but the engineers, the watchers, the star makers. They don't rule with thunder and fire. They don't demand worship. They observe. They measure. They influence, quietly, precisely, surgically. Sometimes they appear in your dreams. Sometimes they contact through altered states. Sometimes they intervene when the simulation veers off course. But always, they are watching. You can feel it, in déjà vu, in synchronicities, in that persistent inner voice whispering, "This world is not what it seems." Because it isn't. Earth is not your prison. It's your mirror and your training ground. Every emotion you feel, every mistake you make, every connection you forge is data, feedback, evidence of how consciousness adapts to forgetting. And when you die, you don't perish. You debrief. You return, unless you've completed your arc. Unless your soul has evolved enough to graduate this layer of simulation. So what is the ultimate purpose? Not obedience, not perfection, but awakening. To remember who you are while everything around you tells you not to. And that is the highest test of all. Earth is not a mistake. It's the final exam. The cracks in the official theory evolution explains much, but not everything. There are glaring gaps the scientific establishment avoids. The sudden emergence of advanced cognitive abilities in Homo sapiens, for example, cannot be easily explained by gradual mutations. There is no smooth transition, no convincing missing link. Suddenly, we have language, art, spirituality, architecture, awareness of death, and abstract thought. But here's what's even stranger: our genetic code. Scientists have discovered that human DNA contains 223 genes that appear in no other known species on Earth. These genes have no known evolutionary ancestors. In other words, they seem to have been inserted externally. Are these the fingerprints of engineering? Evidence of deliberate modification? A signature left behind by those who made us? The star makers. Throughout ancient history, civilizations across every continent told stories that, on the surface, were labeled as myths. But when you look closer, they aren't just religious allegories or symbolic tales. They are technological descriptions, using the limited vocabulary of ancient times to describe something very real. The Sumerians, often regarded as the first advanced civilization, wrote on clay tablets about beings they called the Anunnaki, those who came from the heavens to earth. These gods descended in flying crafts, manipulated genes, and created humans to serve them. The tablets even describe a creation chamber and a being named Enki who combined the essence of the gods with the creatures of earth. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs were considered direct descendants of the gods, star-born rulers with divine right. Hieroglyphs show flying discs, tall beings with elongated heads, and even what some researchers interpret as energy weapons or flying vehicles. The god Thoth was said to come from the stars, bring knowledge, and ascend back to the heavens. In India, the Vedas describe flying machines called Vimanas, piloted by gods who could unleash weapons more powerful than any modern military arsenal. These texts describe battles in the sky, teleportation, genetic manipulation, and interdimensional travel. Lord Shiva, the destroyer, is portrayed with cosmic attributes that eerily resemble nuclear technology and gravitational distortion. And in Mesoamerica, the Mayans and Aztecs speak of Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent god who descended from the heavens, taught mathematics, astronomy, and left with the promise of returning. Their pyramids are astronomically aligned, and many researchers believe their calendar, ending in a cyclical reset, points to an awareness of celestial rhythms beyond their time. Now pause. These civilizations had no contact with each other. They lived thousands of miles apart, different languages, different time periods, but they all described the same thing. Beings from the sky, flying ships, genetic intervention, star maps, creation by non-human intelligences. This isn't coincidence. This is a pattern. This convergence of ancient narratives leads us to what some call the Star Maker theory. It proposes that humanity is not a random outcome of blind evolution, but a deliberate creation, the result of a high-level bioengineering project conducted by extraterrestrial intelligences. These beings didn't simply drop life onto Earth and leave. They monitored, they intervened, they adjusted, and most importantly, they implanted consciousness, a self-aware observer trapped in biological flesh. In other words, they didn't just create our bodies. They coded the soul's interface with matter. Think of it this way. Evolution may have built the hardware, but the star makers installed the operating system. And Earth? Earth, in this model, is not just a planet. It's a living test environment, a controlled ecosystem designed to simulate extremes: emotion, trauma, free will, duality. A place to observe how consciousness evolves under pressure, without memory of its origin. The gods of the past were not myths. They were the engineers, the scientists, the architects of the human project. They are not omnipotent, but they are millennia ahead, and perhaps still watching. A real case, Barney and Betty Hill. This isn't just theory. The signs are everywhere, including in some of the most credible contact stories ever recorded. One of the most documented and disturbing cases of alien abduction happened in 1961. Betty and Barney Hill, a respectable middle-class couple from New Hampshire, were returning home from vacation late at night, driving along a rural road, when they noticed a strange light in the sky. At first, they thought it was a star or maybe a plane. But the light followed them, accelerated, changed direction, and eventually descended toward their car. They stopped. Betty took out binoculars. She saw a disc-shaped craft with windows. And behind those windows, humanoid beings watching them. Barney saw them too. Fear took over. He tried to escape. Then a strange mechanical sound filled the air, pulsating, disorienting, followed by a blackout. They regained consciousness, still driving. But 2 hours had passed. Hours they could not remember. When they arrived home, they were disoriented. Their watches had stopped. Their car had strange marks. Betty's suitcase was ripped. A fine pink powder covered parts of the interior. And then the dreams started. Betty began having recurring nightmares. Gray beings with large eyes, taking her aboard a craft, inserting needles into her abdomen, collecting biological samples. Barney, though skeptical, began suffering anxiety attacks, insomnia, and emotional breakdowns. They sought professional help. Under hypnosis, conducted separately by Dr. Benjamin Simon, both described the same terrifying experience in detail. Being taken aboard by small gray beings, being separated for examination. Betty's reproductive organs probed with a long needle. Barney's semen extracted. Communication was telepathic. Betty was shown a star map, a route possibly of their origin. Later, she drew the map. Years later, astronomers identified it as the Zeta Reticuli binary system, 39 light-years away, a star system not fully catalogued in 1961. This wasn't a hallucination. Their accounts were consistent, emotionally intense, and corroborated by physical anomalies. The Hills were not attention seekers. Their case was investigated by Air Force personnel under Project Blue Book, and it became the blueprint for thousands of similar abduction stories that followed. Same beings, same procedures, same eerie sense of telepathic control. To the Starmaker theory, the Hills weren't just victims, they were data points, their biology, emotions, and reactions, part of an ongoing experiment. Scientific voices outside the box. Francis Crick, Nobel Prize winner and co-discoverer of the DNA double helix, publicly suggested that life on Earth may have been intentionally seeded by a technologically advanced civilization. He called it directed panspermia. Not only that, military pilots from the U.S. Navy have now openly described encounters with flying objects that defy the known laws of physics. Documents have been declassified. Footage has been released. And yet, the world stays asleep. Why? Because if the truth is accepted, that we are not alone, and that we are being watched, everything changes. The spiritual purpose of the human experiment. But perhaps the most profound layer of this theory is not physical, it's spiritual. What if we are not just engineered bodies, but engineered souls? What if the body is the avatar, and the soul is the actual subject of the experiment? Life on Earth is brutal. It's designed that way. It's where you forget who you are, where you suffer, fail, struggle, lose, but also where you grow, awaken, and transcend. What's being tested is how consciousness behaves under limitation, how it evolves without knowing why. Every life is a data set, every reincarnation, a deeper dive. The soul learns, fails, reboots, tries again, until it graduates. This, right here, is where ufology meets spirituality, where extraterrestrial technology intersects with reincarnation, where angels and aliens are no longer so different. Conclusion: the awakening begins. Now. It always starts with a single moment, a flicker of doubt, a feeling you can't ignore, a voice inside whispering, "What if everything they told me was a lie?" And suddenly nothing feels the same. You look at the world, and it feels off. The news, the history books, the systems you were taught to trust. You begin to see the cracks, the contradictions, the patterns that don't lie. If you feel like something is deeply wrong with this world, that's because it is. If you sense a truth is being hidden, that's because it is. If reality feels artificial, manipulated, staged, that's because it was designed that way. You're not broken. You're not crazy. You're waking up. And no awakening is easy. It costs you your illusions. It costs you your comfort. It even costs you people who can't yet see what you see, but it gives you something infinitely more powerful: clarity, purpose, a mission. Because once you see the machine, you stop being a part of it. You are not here by accident. You're part of a global shift, a collective remembering, a wave of consciousness rising through darkness, confusion, and silence. You are one of the few who dared to question, to break free, to ask the forbidden questions. This was episode 1 of Truth Beyond Earth. Humanity was engineered. And this is only the beginning. There are deeper truths to uncover, more lies to dismantle, more souls to awaken. So if this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Truth Beyond Earth. Like this video. Comment: when did you first realize this world isn't what it seems? And most of all, share this video with someone who's starting to question everything. Because one spark can light 1,000 fires. And the truth? The truth isn't on the news. The truth isn't in the textbooks. The truth lies far beyond Earth. We'll see you in the next transmission. Stay awake. Stay sovereign. Stay curious. The experiment is not over, but your awakening has just begun.